Bubba in the wall. Hamlin thinks he's got it. Elliott says, no, you don't. I'm going through to the round of 8 with a win, my second at Kansas Speedway.
Chase Elliott lined up in 8th place for the final restart at Kansas Speedway. Most fans thought the race was already decided. 2 laps later, he crossed the finish line first after one of the most aggressive moves of the 2025 season. This is the story of how a struggling playoff driver turned everything around with a single bold decision on the final lap of the Hollywood Casino 400. The race took place on Sunday, September 29th, 2025 at Kansas Speedway. It was the second race in the round of 12 playoffs, and the pressure was building on every driver still fighting for a championship. Chase Elliott came into this race carrying a lot of weight on his shoulders. 5 years have passed since Elliott won his only championship back in 2020. Since then, many people have questioned whether he can still compete at the highest level. Critics say he struggles with the next-gen cars that NASCAR introduced. His road course skills, which used to be his biggest strength, have faded as drivers like Shane Van Gisbergen have shown what real road course domination looks like. Elliott did manage to win earlier this season at Atlanta in late June. That victory happened in front of his home crowd and secured his spot in the playoffs. But after that win, consistency became a major problem. He finished 3rd at Watkins Glen and managed a 5th-place finish at New Hampshire after starting way back in 27th position. However, these bright spots were mixed with many disappointing results. After his Kansas win, Elliott spoke about the importance of momentum in racing. He told reporters, "A lot can happen in 10 weeks, and that can be the difference in somebody being mediocre to potentially getting on a hot streak, or, even a team collectively getting better throughout the course of that time." The Kansas race started with Chase Briscoe on pole position. Briscoe led the first 20 laps before Denny Hamlin took control of the race. From that point forward, Hamlin looked completely in charge of the event. Stage 1 ended with Hamlin in victory lane. He led 55 of the 80 laps in the opening stage. Kyle Larson finished 2nd, and Elliott came home 3rd. During this stage, Cody Ware crashed hard into the wall when something broke on the front of his car. The incident brought out a caution flag and gave teams a chance to make adjustments. Stage 2 played out much like the first stage. Hamlin completely dominated and won again. By the end of the second stage, Hamlin had led 93 of 165 laps, which is more than half the race. Christopher Bell finished 2nd, followed by Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott. At this point, 9 of the top 10 running positions were held by playoff drivers, showing just how competitive the field was. When the final stage began, Elliott briefly took the lead from Hamlin. However, Hamlin's car was simply faster, and he quickly moved back to the front. Everything seemed to be going Hamlin's way until problems started developing with his race car. Around 50 laps from the finish, Hamlin's power steering system began failing. Power steering helps drivers turn the wheel easily at high speeds. Without it, the car becomes very difficult to control, especially on a fast track like Kansas. Despite this mechanical problem, Hamlin continued leading and refused to give up his position. The race stayed relatively calm until J.J. Yaley crashed after contact from Carson Hocevar. This brought out a caution flag. On the following restart at lap 217, disaster struck for several playoff contenders. Noah Gragson and Joey Logano made contact entering turn 1. This triggered a massive chain reaction crash. Cars involved in the wreck included Austin Cindric, Ryan Blaney, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Kyle Busch, A.J. Allmendinger, Carson Hocevar, Austin Dillon, and Ty Gibbs. For Cindric especially, this crash was devastating. He ended up finishing 33rd, which put him 48 points below the playoff cutoff line. Hamlin maintained his lead after the crash. Christopher Bell emerged as his biggest challenger as the laps wound down. With about 15 laps remaining, Kyle Busch's tire came apart, forcing another caution flag. This caution set up the most important decision of the race. Most of the lead drivers chose to take only 2 new tires during this pit stop. This approach allows teams to get back on track faster and maintain their track position. Alan Gustafson, Elliott's crew chief, made a different call. He brought Elliott down pit road and put 4 brand new tires on the car. This decision dropped Elliott back to 8th position for the restart, but it gave him a significant advantage in tire grip and speed. Gustafson explained his thinking after the race. He said, "The 11 was better than us all day. The 20 was better than us all day. We needed to have an advantage over them to beat them. I wanted to give Chase an opportunity to have a distinct advantage over them. However, the race was far from over. Carson Hocevar spun his car, which forced the race into overtime. In NASCAR, overtime means they continue racing until the race can finish under green flag conditions without caution. During the first overtime restart, one of the scariest crashes of the season occurred. John Hunter Nemechek made contact with Zane Smith in turns 3 and 4. Smith's car was pushed into the wall and immediately went up on its side. The car then rode along the wall vertically for the entire length of turn 4, with the driver's side facing down toward the track surface. The car eventually fell back onto the track and flipped over multiple times before coming to rest. Safety crews rushed to the scene, but Smith was able to climb out of the destroyed car on his own. He was checked at the infield medical center and released without serious injuries. Smith spoke to reporters after the incident. He said, "It was a wild ride, no doubt. I just get wrecked by the 42. He just drives through me and then I was sliding on the wall. It was violent, no doubt, but we had such a fast car today. It's just a bummer." The crash forced officials to stop the race completely with a red flag, so crews could clean up the debris. After the cleanup, NASCAR prepared for a second overtime restart. Bubba Wallace and Christopher Bell lined up at the front, with Denny Hamlin close behind and Chase Elliott still back in 8th with his 4 fresh tires. The green flag waved and Wallace and Bell immediately battled door-to-door for the lead. This aggressive racing created an opening for Hamlin, who got a big run down the backstretch. The situation created an interesting dynamic since Wallace drives for 2311 Racing, a team co-owned by Hamlin and Michael Jordan. Wallace was racing his own boss for the win. On the final lap, Wallace pushed Bell aside and grabbed the lead at the white flag, but Hamlin came charging with a huge run, dove inside entering turn 3, and made contact with Wallace. The contact pushed Wallace toward the wall, forcing him to lift off the throttle. While this battle unfolded, Chase Elliott was charging through the field. Those 4 fresh tires gave him incredible speed. Coming off turn 2, Elliott squeezed between Chase Briscoe and Christopher Bell and shot to the bottom of the track. As they raced into turn 4, Elliott pulled alongside Hamlin and door slammed him hard. The contact broke Hamlin's speed just enough. Elliott crossed the line first by 0.069 seconds. One bold move sent Elliott to the round of 8 and left Hamlin heartbroken after leading 159 laps.
I know for a championship. What the?
Oh, here we go. Yep. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, boy. Yes, sir. Gibbs goes around.
Yellow zone.
Joe Gibbs Racing is in chaos, and Denny Hamlin just threw gasoline on the fire. In what's quickly becoming one of the most heated internal feuds of the 2025 NASCAR season, Denny Hamlin has openly called out Joe Gibbs Racing over its lack of leadership and unclear team dynamics, putting the spotlight on a moment that may have already reshaped the outcome of the playoffs. It all began at New Hampshire during the opening race of the round of 12. Running in 11th place on lap 110, Hamlin was battling his JGR teammates Ty Gibbs and Christopher Bell. That's when things took a turn. Hamlin slipped underneath Gibbs and clipped his left rear, sending the number 54 Toyota into the turn 1 wall. The crash forced Gibbs out of the race and triggered a caution that changed the tone for the rest of the day. But the wreck was just the spark. What followed was a full-blown inferno. "My teammate shouldn't be the hardest car to pass." Hamlin, clearly frustrated, didn't hold back on his Actions Detrimental podcast the following day. Speaking with a tone that made it clear he'd reached a breaking point, Hamlin questioned the culture at JGR and laid bare the internal dysfunction plaguing one of NASCAR's most elite teams.
You know, my teammate out of the playoffs should not be the hardest car on the track to pass.
Venting over the fact that Gibbs, who is no longer in the playoff hunt, was still defending his position aggressively. Hamlin wasn't just venting about one race. He was exposing a deeper issue, the absence of clear team rules. With 3 JGR drivers still in the playoffs, Hamlin, Christopher Bell, and Chase Briscoe, he expected a level of strategic cooperation. What he got instead was resistance from within. Ty Gibbs, for his part, didn't stay silent. After being wrecked and taken out of the race, he radioed in a defiant "game on," signaling that he wasn't going to back down just because he's out of playoff contention. It was the clearest indication yet that the Gibbs-Hamlin relationship had fractured. And the wreck didn't just cost Gibbs a finish, It potentially fractured the team at the worst possible time. The playoffs are a make-or-break moment, and internal drama can undo even the best performance on track. Team owner Joe Gibbs attempted to downplay the situation, telling Fox's Bob Pockras that the drivers should handle it themselves.
It's always the drivers that have to handle that. They're the ones that got the wheel, and so I think that's always the case.
But his non-committal response only added fuel to the fire. For Hamlin, that's not good enough. He made it crystal clear on his podcast. He wants leadership to step in.
What I want to happen is just leadership step in and tell us, what do you want us to do?
Hamlin demanded.
If you want us all to just race each other cutthroat, no matter what your position is in stature in the standings, we can definitely do that. Like I expect.
The deeper issue here isn't just a wreck or a bad day on the track. It's the power dynamics within Joe Gibbs Racing. Ty Gibbs is more than just a teammate. He's the grandson of the team's founder and owner. That family tie makes every interaction with him more delicate and more volatile. As Adam Alexander pointed out on NASCAR's Inside the Race, this is a nightmare scenario for Joe Gibbs. You're less than 2 months removed from Denny signing a contract extension that will keep him at JGR for the rest of his career. He noted, "This isn't just about Ty Gibbs. It's about Denny Hamlin, the face of the franchise." Alexander added that Hamlin doesn't often make noise for personal gain, so when he does speak up, it carries extra weight. He's not the guy to bang on the table or pull out his resume, so when he speaks, people listen. At the core of Hamlin's frustration is a brutally simple truth. The stakes are too high for selfish racing. With stage points playing a critical role in advancement, every position counts. So when Hamlin was forced to fight his own teammate harder than any rival on the grid, just for 11th place, it sent a clear message. JGR isn't aligned.
I will play by those rules, but I've been told in the past, if you're not in it, you do everything you can to help your teammates that are in it.
Instead, he found himself battling a teammate like it was the Daytona 500. It's not just fans or media asking hard questions. Hamlin himself is pointing fingers at the top. He openly admitted that the real issue is a lack of leadership direction. But that begs the question, why haven't those rules already been made clear? In past seasons, top-tier teams have navigated the playoffs with structured plans. Drivers knew their roles. Whether it meant yielding positions or staying out of the way, it was clear. But at JGR, it seems like that structure doesn't exist, or at least isn't enforced. What makes this blow-up more significant is the timing. JGR had just dominated round 1 of the playoffs. They were poised to make a legitimate title run with multiple drivers in contention. But now, instead of building momentum, they're dealing with headlines, finger-pointing, and the kind of tension that can fracture a garage. And let's not forget, this isn't the first time Gibbs and Hamlin have clashed. They've had subtle disagreements before, usually behind closed doors. But this one, it's out in the open. The wreck, the radio jab, the podcast rant, it's all public. Joe Gibbs is in a nearly impossible position. On one hand, he needs to protect his star driver and ensure the playoff push doesn't go off the rails. On the other, he can't be seen as favoring one driver over his grandson, especially in the long-term plans of the organization. Adam Alexander summed it up best. "I have confidence in Joe Gibbs to handle it, but I don't envy the position he's in, and that's putting it lightly." Because the wrong decision here could not only end JGR's 2025 championship hopes, it could damage relationships permanently. For Hamlin, 2025 is more than just another season. It's a career-defining opportunity to finally capture the elusive Cup Series title that has always danced just out of reach. With 5 wins this year, he's having one of his best campaigns ever. But success in NASCAR isn't just about driving. It's about strategy, unity, and trust. And right now, Joe Gibbs Racing is missing all 3. The crash at New Hampshire wasn't just a moment, it was a message. It told the world that JGR's drivers are no longer on the same page, that internal communication has broken down, that playoff priorities are blurred by egos, legacy, and conflicting loyalties. Hamlin didn't just want an apology, he wanted order, a plan, a roadmap for how teammates should behave when championships are on the line. Without that, he made it clear, no one wins. What happened at New Hampshire might be remembered as the moment Joe Gibbs Racing fell apart, or the moment it finally woke up. The ball is in Joe Gibbs' court now. Will he establish control and unify his drivers, or will he let this conflict drag the team into deeper dysfunction? One thing's for sure, Denny Hamlin has drawn the line. He's not asking, he's demanding. And if JGR doesn't step up, this isn't just a team drama, it's a full-blown organizational crisis in the middle of a championship chase. At Joe Gibbs Racing, the silence from the top may be the loudest message of all.
2 questions. Do you like the spray of tracks for the current playoff system? And 2, if there's something that Alex Bowman could change, not necessarily in his favor, but change for the playoffs to make it more fair.
Alex Bowman, the driver who's made the playoffs 7 out of 8 years, just told everyone the whole system is broken. And then he turned around and defended his biggest rival. That's got the entire NASCAR world scratching their heads. The Hendrick Motorsports driver dropped some truth bombs recently that nobody saw coming. Here's a guy who drives the legendary number 48 Chevrolet, consistently makes the playoffs, and has every reason to love the current system. But instead of playing it safe, Bowman went on the Speed Freaks podcast and said something that shocked the NASCAR world. "I would just like 36 races and call it good," Bowman stated flatly. He wants NASCAR to ditch the entire playoff format and go back to the old-school system where whoever has the most points after 36 races wins the championship. No eliminations, no must-win situations, just pure season-long consistency. Think about that for a second. This is coming from someone who's literally built his career success around the current playoff system. At 32 years old, Bowman has made the playoffs in 7 of the last 8 seasons. His best championship finish was 6th place back in 2020. You'd think he'd be all in on keeping things exactly as they are. But Bowman isn't just any driver making noise for attention. He's been around long enough to see both sides of this debate, and he's not afraid to speak his mind even when it goes against his own interests. The really shocking part, Bowman knows his opinion doesn't matter. When asked if NASCAR would ever change back to the old format, he didn't hesitate with his answer.
No, definitely not.
Aw.
0% chance on that one. I don't think so, at least. I think the playoffs are important in creating excitement.
He went even deeper, explaining something most drivers won't admit out loud.
But at the end of the day, we're entertainers and we're creating entertainment, and our job is to entertain the fans. I think the playoffs create a lot of excitement.
That's brutal honesty right there. Bowman basically admitted that NASCAR prioritizes entertainment over pure competition, and he's okay with that reality even though he disagrees with it personally. But here's where it gets really interesting. Bowman knows he's fighting a losing battle, and he's humble enough to admit it.
Even more so, I'm a dumb race car driver. People way smarter than me decide what the championship format should be, so...
Now, you might be wondering why this matters so much right now. Well, Bowman's playoff situation this year perfectly illustrates his point about the current system's problems. Going into the second playoff race at Gateway, Bowman was in serious trouble. He sat 15th out of 16 playoff drivers, sitting 19 points below the cutoff line to advance to the round of 12. This put him in a nearly must-win situation, and that pressure showed on the track. At Gateway, everything that could go wrong did go wrong for Bowman. He started 25th and immediately ran into pit road problems. Multiple botched pit stops, including a speeding penalty that killed his chances completely, dropped him to a 26th place finish. That left him 35 points below the cutoff line heading into Bristol. After the race, a frustrated Bowman told reporters,
"I don't want to call anybody out. It just kind of is what it is. So just got to keep working. Can't have those mistakes this time of the year, and honestly, just haven't been executing very well."
The execution problem started the week before at Darlington, where Bowman suffered through a disastrous 40-second pit stop just 70 laps into the race. While his Hendrick teammates like Chase Elliott bounced back at Gateway, with a third-place finish, Bowman's struggles continued. It's the perfect example of how the playoff format can make or break a season in just a few bad moments, regardless of how well you performed over the first 26 races. But here's where Bowman really shocked everyone. In the middle of dealing with his own playoff troubles, he took time to defend one of his biggest rivals, Joey Logano. Now, Bowman and Logano have history. They've traded paint, exchanged heated words, and battled hard for position countless times over the years. These two are not friends. which makes what happened next so surprising. During his appearance on Speed Freaks, Bowman directly addressed the criticism that follows Logano and several other recent NASCAR champions. Critics love to call these championships illegitimate because the drivers didn't dominate the entire season. Logano won the 2024 championship despite having a relatively quiet regular season. He only made the playoff field because of a 5-overtime victory at Nashville Superspeedway, then got hot at exactly the right time during the playoffs. Some fans and media members have called this championship illegitimate because Logano wasn't the most consistent driver all year long. Bowman wasn't having any of that criticism.
I think I've seen the people that are trying to say that, like, Joey's taking advantage of it, right? Because he struggled throughout the year last year, got one win, and then kicked all our ass in the playoffs.
Right.
That doesn't make him an illegitimate champion.
This defense coming from Bowman carries serious weight. When a driver defends someone he's had run-ins with purely based on principle, that means something. Bowman could have easily stayed quiet or even piled on the criticism. Instead, he chose to give credit where credit was due. The timing of these comments couldn't be more relevant. NASCAR's championship format has been under intense scrutiny lately, with several high-profile voices calling for change. Denny Hamlin, the 2024 Daytona 500 winner, recently made waves by declaring the fan base is over it when discussing the current playoff system.